And let's bring in film critic Richard Roeper for more on Duvall's life and legacy. Hi, Richard. Thanks for coming on. So you say Duvall is going to be remembered for some of the greatest films in a number of genres. Which ones really stand out to you?
Well, Diane, everybody talks about The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, but then you look at the Westerns. Just the other day, I was watching Open Range, which is such a great Western. And then in The Natural, he's the sports writer who wonders about Roy Hobbs, and it's one of the great sports movies of all time. So almost Tender Murphys is a country domestic drama. The thing about Robert Duvall was, even though he was such a charismatic and powerful on-screen presence, he would disappear into these characters. We believed him as a military man, as an alcoholic country singer, as a sports writer, as a lawyer. He just, he kind of reminded me, Diane, of that uncle or grandfather that you always wanted to hang out with at family events, who'd be in the garage having a beer because he didn't want to put up with any of the BS. And that was the persona he brought to his roles.
You know, the one that really stuck out to me this morning was Days of Thunder. I loved him in that role, and for some reason, that was the first image that I got in my head.
You know, it's interesting because he wasn't one of these actors who was like, oh, I'm above the material. If he thought it was a good role, he would take it. Your wonderful package there mentioned The Apostle. He wrote and directed that movie and really got into that world of evangelists and wanting to understand them. And one of the things he told me once is that an actor, he also wanted to serve the story. Every time he would do a take on a film, he would try to do something different to make his scene partner look better, because that would make him look better and make the movie better.
You say he was never interested in celebrity culture. So how did that manifest in his career and his life?
It was all about the work. And, you know, Diane, he wasn't a recluse, and he certainly wasn't a curmudgeon. Robert Duvall was warm and engaging, and you're seeing all these tributes coming in. He just didn't want to play the game. If he had a movie or a television project he believed in, he would go on the talk show circuit. But as you mentioned, you know, when his wife gave us the news of his passing, it was from their home in Virginia. He spent a lot of time in Argentina. He lived in L.A. when he needed to live in L.A. for the work, but he was never part of that whole Hollywood vibe.
You got a chance to watch him on the set of Widows in Chicago and have dinner with him after. What do you remember about that day, and how will you remember him in general?
Diana, was one of the great privileges of my life. He was doing a scene, Robert Duvall was doing a scene with Colin Farrell, and it was a very intense father-son sequence. In every single take, and Colin Farrell's a great actor, but every single take, Robert Duvall would put a different spin on a line or ad-lib just one moment. But then he wasn't one of these method actors. You know, as soon as the day was done filming, he said, let's go chat. We talked about food, we talked about movies, we talked about family. He could turn it on when he needed to, but he wasn't, I don't think, one of these tortured artists. He loved being an actor. He didn't take it too seriously. He took the role seriously and the work seriously, but not himself.
All right, film critic Richard Roeper, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.